dream, the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to ride the unrideable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to learn in the heavenly cause, and I know if only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm till I'm laid to rest, and the world will be better for this, that one man scarred and covered with scars, still strode with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable, the unreachable, the unreachable star. And I'll always dream the impossible dream, and I'll reach the unreachable star, to dream and reach the impossible dream.
Thank you, Professor Watson, for that performance. As we get ready to close out 2020, I want to look back at the year and celebrate the resilience of our immigrant communities. This year, we have been tested in every way imaginable. And our immigrant friends and neighbors have played a vital role in our response to the COVID-19 crisis, here in Boston and all across the United States of America. It's never been more clear how much we all depend on one another. It's never been more important for all of us to make sure that everyone has the support they need. From the moment this pandemic hit, our focus has been on supporting residents who have been the most impacted by this crisis. And that especially includes the immigrant communities. Together with many of you here tonight, our Office of Immigrant Advancement, led by Yusufi Valley, has made sure all essential immigrant services have continued without interruption. And citywide, we're supporting individuals and families with critical resources like rental relief, medical care, and food access. Local organizations, including many of you watching tonight, continue to play a vital role in this work. Early in this pandemic, MOIA brought together immigrants and nonprofits and foundations to help inform and guide this work. They also helped facilitate and launch the Massachusetts Immigrant COVID-19 Collaborative. It's a coordinated effort between 15 immigrant-serving organizations to provide food, financial support, and legal services to the immigrant community. The collaborative has received over $4 million in donations and is still counting. Many of you watching tonight played an important role in these efforts, and I want to say thank you. Another big focus of us this year was the Boston Resiliency Fund. It has allowed us to harness the generosity of our city and direct funding where it's needed the most. The Boston Resiliency Fund has distributed more than $28 million to community organizations all across the city, including many that serve our immigrant communities. It's a living testament to our city's enduring values. In Boston, we know that we have a responsibility to work towards a better, more just future. That's why this year, we're also focused on dismantling systemic racism. I declared racism a public health crisis in the city of Boston, and we're backing that declaration with real action. I created an equity cabinet led by Dr. Carolyn Crockett. The goal is to prioritize equity in every way that local government touches people's lives. We also created the Racial Equity Fund to advance our racial justice work. At the same time, we took a stand against anti-immigrant policies coming from Washington. We demanded that everyone in our community be counted in the census. We fought to defend TPS, and we supported Project Citizenship lawsuit against USCIS when they tried to turn our citizenship into a wealth test. We led an amicus brief and got 33 cities and counties, the United States Conference of Mayors, and the Metropolitan Area Planning Council to sign on. Meanwhile, Project Citizenship and many of you here tonight worked tirelessly to process as many citizenship applications as possible before the fee increase was set to begin. Thankfully, a federal court blocked those fee increases. You should all be proud of the role you played in this fight. It's a reminder how powerful we can be when we stand together. But I've always said that a city shows its true colors during hard times. We've got a long road ahead of us. We're going to keep supporting one another. And we're going to keep fighting to protect the well-being, the rights, and the dignity of everyone who calls our city home. At the same time, I want to highlight the work being done by various nonprofit organizations this year.
Hello, my name's Ronnie Miller of the Rian Immigrant Center in Boston, and I'm really honored to introduce the Boston Immigrant COVID Collaborative. This collaborative is a diverse group of 11 immigrant support organizations in the city of Boston.
This collaboration was born out of necessity to assist our community with new difficulties during the pandemic.
Families are struggling to make ends meet, to pay rent, pay bills, and put food on the table. And without a home, they cannot practice social distancing.
And because of this pandemic, our numbers have not just doubled, they have tripled. But the Boston Resiliency Fund has allowed us to meet that challenge head on.
This fund allows us to provide essentials such as culturally appropriate food, diapers, and medicine for those who need.
We have been able to identify at least 150 families who have received much needed financial assistance.
Our community members are extremely grateful because many of them are reaching a point of desperation since they don't qualify for any other type of government relief or support.
A few weeks ago, an alumni reached out to me, and this alumni is Spanish speaking only. She was telling me that she's having a very difficult time advocating for her and her mother. Before the call ended, I pointed out so many resources that we at Social Latina kind of gathered. By the end of the call, she broke down crying. She felt very grateful being able just to give them an ear that they can talk into.
All this financial support is going to allow these families to buy food, to pay rent, and meet other necessities that they have.
On behalf of my family and myself, I would like to thank the Boston Resiliency Fund for all your help during this pandemic. Because of your incentive, we were able to fill up the fridge at home for the whole family. And honestly, that goes a really long way.
One of the families from the STEAM Team program is now able to complete a bill payment that she thought she wouldn't be able to complete because they cut her hours.
我喺呢度代表我嘅家庭，再次多謝 BCNC 嘅幫助同埋照顧。
As an activist, as a woman of color, I want to thank Mayor Walsh for taking the leadership and protecting the rights of all people in Boston, including undocumented immigrants.
Thank you, Boston.
We are truly grateful.
Thank you so much for your help.
Let's continue to work together to bring hope to those families. They count on us.
All of our nonprofit partners have done amazing work this year, but we would like to highlight one person in particular for this year's We Are Boston Community Champion Award. This year's award goes to Rita Lara, the Executive Director of the Maverick Landing Community Services. Rita has been working in the nonprofit sector for over 20 years. She has been instrumental on our coronavirus response. Rita organized a collaborative of East Boston organizations to work together. She has quickly and innovatively adapted her team to provide relief and food for those in need, including those who do not qualify for any benefits. And Rita has been instrumental in setting up the city's current sustainable food distribution system with Fair Foods. Rita, thank you for your service to our city, and I'm proud to present you with this year's award. The next award is the We Are Boston Corporate Leadership Award. This goes to a corporation that has demonstrated deep commitment to Boston's diverse communities. And this year, that goes to Eastern Bank. Eastern Bank has helped many nonprofits and immigrant-owned businesses apply for PPP. They've also been a champion for ESL education and immigrant empowerment. The annual social justice celebration is an inspiration to all corporations to prioritize equity in everything they do. Thank you, Eastern Bank. And now you'll hear from the award recipients, Rita Lara of Maverick Landing and Quincy Miller, the President and Vice Chairman of Eastern Bank.
I'm really deeply honored to receive this Community Champion Award from the City of Boston, especially during this moment in time. I want to thank the Office for Immigrant Advancement for its tireless work amplifying voice and representation for the immigrant community, which is one of our most vulnerable communities right now. There's been so much work to do, and the Office for Immigrant Advancement has done it with steadfast commitment and deep integrity. I also want to thank the Office for Food Access in the City of Boston. They've done an amazing job at increasing access to food for immigrants and for other people in need who are struggling in ways that we have not seen before this moment in time. We've put community interest over anything else, and we need to continue to do that. I'm really deeply grateful to all the people who give their heart and soul to creating a more socially and economically and racially just community, especially for immigrants. They are our bedrock. Thank you.
Hello. On behalf of our 1,900 employees here at Eastern Bank, our executive management team, and our board of directors, I'd like to say how proud we are of our long-term partnership with MOIA, not only in advancing immigration, the lifeblood of growth here in the Commonwealth, but in the commitment to equity and social justice for all of our diverse communities across Boston. We are sincerely thankful and honored to receive this award. And together, as individuals, public and private businesses, I know we will come together, remain resilient, and overcome to move our city forward, not only through this pandemic, but for generations to come. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Rita and Quincy, and congratulations on your very well-deserved awards. It's been a busy year for all of us, and I'd like to begin by thanking our sponsors who make this event possible. Sponsorships for We Are Boston fund our mini grants. So last year's sponsors funded this year's $100,000 worth of mini grants we gave out in October, and this year's sponsors will fund the mini grants for next year. Many of our sponsors have joined us here tonight, and I'd like to take a moment to recognize you for your generous donation, especially our champion sponsors, Arbella Insurance Foundation and State Street Corporation, and our visionary sponsors, Eastern Bank and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And a big thank you to all our sponsors for supporting MOIA and the hard work of our immigrant-serving nonprofits. You know, the needs of our immigrant communities have been extraordinary this year. Over 100 nonprofits have applied for our mini grants this past October. It was a very difficult process, and we wish we could have given everyone a grant. Our selection committee ultimately picked these 20 diverse nonprofits who will be using the grants to provide critical programs and services to our immigrant residents to persevere through the COVID-19 crisis. Our primary strategy with these grants is to fund up-and-coming nonprofits and programs that are not necessarily on the radar screen of our foundations and corporate sponsors. Now, last year, during We Are Boston, I told you about MOIA's strategic plan, and I'm proud to say that on top of COVID-related crisis response, we have made significant progress on a number of our strategic initiatives. Big credit goes to our mayor, who has supported MOIA with the necessary resources, doubling our budget and staff in the past year. Now, I spoke last year about how important it is that immigrants are framed in an accurate light as contributors and productive citizens to our nation and democracy. We've been doing that exact work of framing, very busy countering divisive national rhetoric and policies through proactive communications, advocacy, and legal tools. I also noted that we would revamp our advisory board to help drive strategic initiatives. While COVID has delayed this launch, we are starting to recruit candidates and hope to announce the board this spring. I'm also very excited to share that we are in week 6 of Immigrants Lead Boston, our brand new civic engagement course. I'd really like to thank my team, particularly Carol Leone and Florence Glynn, for making this possible, and thank you to all the city departments who are participating. It's an important program that will make hundreds of emerging immigrant leaders become civically active, understand how the city works, how the budget works, and meet different directors and chiefs. And most importantly, it will move us from resilience to equity in the long term. We currently have a great group of 18 diverse participants, some of them here tonight, and I'm confident that you'll be seeing them in the very near future. Another important initiative that moves us from resilience to equity, which the mayor and my team launched this summer, was our Dreamers Fellowship. Our undocumented youth need to have the same kind of summer job opportunities as those with status. So we started this unprecedented pilot program that paired 50 Dreamers with nonprofits to gain hands-on work experience and education while receiving a stipend. Thank you to the mayor, the Department of Youth and Engagement and Employment, and especially the Caribbean Youth Club, Centro Presente, and Brazilian Workers Center, and the Rian Immigration Center for putting this program together with us within a span of literally 3 weeks, and for the Resiliency Fund for funding it. And I'm excited to announce that we're working with Chief Marty Martinez and his Health and Human Services Cabinet on a second phase of this program during the school year. And we're also exploring the possibility of a permanent summer program with our Youth Engagement and Employment Department. We will put out more information in the coming weeks about this, so be on the lookout for that. Now, in the next year, the mayor and my goal is to keep moving forward on equity. Already the first New England city to take such a step, we will be doubling our investment in the Greater Boston Immigrant Defense Fund from $50,000 to $100,000. Because regardless of who the president is, legal needs for our immigrant residents are at an all-time high. We're also identifying initiatives to increase wealth and entrepreneurship. My team is exploring pilot programs and policies for foreign-trained professionals to get rapidly matched with employers, and we're looking into worker-owned co-ops, which offer a unique pathway to business ownership for all immigrants regardless of status. If you're interested in this or have other ideas, please reach out to my office. Okay, enough from me at this point. Now we're going to hear from an extraordinary person and poet from the immigrant community about why this year was particularly meaningful. Tonight's storyteller is Umaleni Malaba Adebo. Umaleni is an immigrant originally from Zimbabwe and is now an artist living in Dorchester. Thank you to Cheryl Hamilton from Suitcase Stories for helping us with this part of the program. We have an exciting event coming up with Suitcase Stories in January where we're going to hear more stories like Umaleni's, and we'll have more details on that in a few weeks.
So I'm sitting on a porch in Dorchester with one of my best friends, Jen. It's sunny outside, our kids are playing, both 9, Jabu and Mona have known each other since they were 1.5 years old. They met in the street chasing a cat, as one does when you're that small. They've been friends for so long. Mona's blonde and athletic, perfect for rock climbing and capoeira, something she and my son have done for years. It's great to see them this way. It's June 2020. It's been a really tough month. Heck, it's been a tough year. Jen and I are bothering mom stories. The endless Zoom meetings, the online school for kids, remote learning, the COVID, the rates climbing, global pandemic, the protests all across America and the world is just too much. My husband is an essential worker, making sure that other people can stay home, stay safe. He works in technology. And we can't even see our family, near or far. My husband's in Nigeria, mine in Zimbabwe and South Africa, UK, Germany, Australia, New Zealand. The only way of communicating is through WhatsApp or Facebook. It's really tough. We've got to do something, I say to my friend Jen. But we don't know what to do. We know there are protests happening all over the city, in the neighborhoods, but we're afraid. We don't want our kids to be in places where there's so many people safe, so what can we do? We need to do something. The kids need to process what's going on too. So I sit in silence for a moment, and an idea bubbles in my mind, and I think maybe we should do a sidewalk kids protest, give the kids an opportunity to connect safely, social distanced. So we get behind that idea as mom do. Tuesday and Wednesday we decide, we're going to plan this. I'm the one who's responsible for getting all the materials, the paper, the crayons, the poster board. Jen's going to call some local parents, see if they'll be interested in coming with their kids, keeping the numbers small because of COVID rates. I'm really excited about this plan. It's something that I can do. Thursday morning, my son is doing remote learning. He's taken a little break, playing Roblox. I'm in between Zoom calls. My husband is at work. And I see a WhatsApp missed call. I check and it's my dad. So I call him back and he tells me, your mom's died. Just that simple, hollow sentence. And I don't even remember how I was feeling. I don't remember really what was processing. I just remember at some point I called my husband. I was fumbling to get the cell phone and then I call and I tell him and he's shocked and he says, I'm sorry, but I can't come because I'm working and I don't want you to be alone. So I'm going to call my sister to come and be with you. But I don't want anybody to be with me. I don't want anyone. I just want to be alone. And right next door, my son is taking classes online and I can't tell him. I can't tell him that his gogo, his grandmother in Zimbabwe, has died. I can't tell him that his mother here is broken. I can't tell him that his gogo who would show him how to use a slingshot, his gogo who he would chase monkeys with in Zimbabwe when she was trying to chase them away from her banana trees. I can't tell him that his gogo who used to read him stories at night when he slept has died. He's right next door, taking his classes online, and I can't tell him. It's now Friday morning. It's 9 o'clock. My son comes down for breakfast. I make him an egg sandwich and I'm sitting across from him on our kitchen island. And I've been practicing all night to say these words. You know how Gogo was sick in Zimbabwe, that she had stage 4 cancer in her body and it was hurting her so bad? My son quietly nods. I'm sorry to tell you, but Gogo passed away. She died yesterday, I say. My son comes around and we embrace, and I'm fighting back the tears, but my son rubs the small of my back and he says, Mommy, it's okay, just let it out, just let it out. That afternoon, it's 3 p.m. and Jen and Mona decide to come down because we're meeting folks for the Sidewalk Kids protest. I go outside and I write Black Lives Matter, socially distant kids protest on the pavement. My son carries out posters that he made, We Love George, written in purple. He takes out some other things that we need for the sidewalk protests. He's getting excited his friends are coming soon. Mona and Jaibu almost hug and embrace, but we remember because it's COVID, they have to keep socially distanced. It's 3:30 p.m. and there's a sea of kids that come with their moms and dads and uncles and aunties, toting water bottles and t-shirts. The energy is exciting. We give the kids some time to write on their posters, and then we march to the monument. It's a monument of a moon right across the street. The cars are honking by as they see the kids walking in unison, chanting, "We love George, Black Lives Matter, justice for all," led by my son. It's a beautiful sight to behold, but it's also painful to see that our kids have to be doing this, standing up for justice. But Jen has walked them through, and we've talked to them about the importance of what they're doing. That we're there to speak up for what's happening to George Floyd, what's happened to Breonna Taylor, that we're here because our voices matter, because everybody needs to be safe, because everybody needs to be heard. I marched them back to the sidewalk where we are. We put our posters down and it's time for a snack. I go inside and I get a bowl of instruments. I want to help them to close out this event, this beautiful event that we created. I bring congas and shakers, and I'm about to lead them in a beautiful song, Hama Maoko, taught by my mother, because part of this is in honor of her, and in honor of Breonna Taylor, because this is also her birthday. We sing the song, the kids start playing. A few minutes later, a police car comes and parks right in front of us. There's sudden tension in the air. My friends Jen and Kama stand in between the police officers and myself. The kids scatter around to the back of the building. And once they do that, I overhear one of them say, "I don't want to die today. I don't want to die today." A short while later, it turns out the police were there to help somebody. We tell the kids when they come back that we love them, that they're safe, that they're okay. Later that evening, I asked my son, "So what did you think? How did you feel about the sidewalk protest? I know it was a really big day for you." My son says, "I think Gogo would be proud that we did something." And for me, as a mother, all I wanted to really do was give my son back his power.
Thank you, Umalini, for sharing that powerful story with us. Your creativity, light, and truth-telling are an inspiration to us all. When Mayor Walsh declared racism a public health crisis in June of this year, he sent a loud message that anti-Black racism cannot be tolerated and must be rooted out of our institutions, our policy, and our own hearts. The transatlantic slave trade was furthered by goods and human cargo traded around the world and through the port of Boston right here. I am the great-great-great-granddaughter of African-American slaves. Following the legal end of slavery, my family left South Carolina and moved to West Virginia, where they worked as laborers and coal miners before coming to Boston in the 1950s. They migrated here to secure a better economic and social life for my cousins and me. But the fight for freedom and fuller political and economic inclusion for African Americans and Black diasporas in Boston and Massachusetts began long before my family's arrival. In 1781, Elizabeth Freeman, an enslaved Black woman, affectionately known as Mum Bet, sued the state of Massachusetts for her freedom and won. Her case would pave the way for the state's abolition of slavery in 1783. Ms. Freeman refused to live in a state that professed freedom but did not recognize hers. By refusing to be silent about what she saw as the hypocrisy of the state's constitution, she became the first enslaved person to sue the state and win, and thereby expand the meaning of freedom, democracy, and citizenship for generations to come. In Massachusetts, we know how to fight, and we know how to win, and we must continue to get better at doing this together. The fight to root out systemic racism begins with rejecting the belief that a society based on white supremacy is normal, okay, or just the way it is. Anti-Black bias is a toxin that must be rooted out within white-dominated institutions and across and within communities of color. We are all wounded and affected by this deep and historic organizing logic within the United States and around the world. All that we have seen and experienced this year is demanding that we advance bolder and more intentional efforts to make sure that the concerns and needs of Black Americans and Black immigrants are centered in our coalition work, and that we are actively advancing a shared commitment to anti-Black racism. There is so much important work to build and grow. MOIA has a long and inspiring track record of advancing the participation, inclusion, and recognition of Boston's multi-ethnic, multiracial, multilingual, and transnational communities. These communities and their power and their knowledge and their agency make our city the hub of the universe. But we know that we could not do this work by ourselves. So I want to extend many thanks to our corporate partners and sponsors who stand with us and enable Yusufi and his team to leverage public sector dollars to do the high impact work that matters most. Our work to root out systemic racism and elevate the power and agency of residents, workers, and families who have been excluded from the city's prosperity begins with each of us. Opportunities to learn together, to strategize, organize, and advocate is the bedrock of a just democracy. Thank you for making this true in the city of Boston tonight and for generations to come. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Sarah Rahim, whose family is from Syria. Sarah will be performing a spoken word piece called Home.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and this poem is called Home. They tell me love cannot come in twos. Whoever said that has never been in my shoes, because the way my tongue rolls R's represents my country, but my open mind is westernized. Yet I carry my culture on my sleeve, but America taught me if I believe, then I can achieve. They tell me love cannot come in twos, but they have not seen the way my mind thinks in Arabic, but my mouth speaks English. They tell me I've overstayed my welcome, that America is not my home. As a U.S. citizen born to immigrants, I'm not here to prove where I stand, because someone's home has absolutely nothing to do with whose land. Home is not a place, and it cannot be confined by space, but home is a feeling. Home is the starting line of hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Home is meaningful conversations. Home is leaving footprints in the hearts of those who feel lost. Being there for someone at any given cost. Sometimes home is somebody else's smile, making you feel safe when you haven't in a while. You see, home is not a piece of paper that proves your birth location, but home is to excel, always building a foundation so strong words of ignorance can't make it through. Home is only defined by your story. It's about where you were and how much you grew, where you're going and what you plan to pursue. So the next time someone says, go back home, tell them I've already built it right here with you. Thank you.
As we bring this year's We Are Boston 2020 from resilience to equity to a close, I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Thank you to the mayor and all of my colleagues at City Hall for prioritizing our immigrant communities. Thank you to our nonprofits for helping families survive this pandemic. And thank you to our sponsors and those who bought tickets for your heart and generosity. And of course, to our immigrant residents for keeping Boston diverse and making it this wonderful city that we all love. And lastly, I want to thank my team, our Chief of Staff, Agnes Chang, and our event planner, Nimra Baksh, for making this year's We Are Boston virtually possible. Last year, MOIA was 5 people. There's now 8 of us full-time, and I'm excited and we're going to soon be 10. And as my team grows, I'm excited to see our network grow as well. So please continue to connect us with community leaders, nonprofit, corporate sponsors, corporations, companies, and foundations. Remember, my team is always here for you and our immigrant residents, and we will continue to make resilience and equity at the center of our work. If you're just getting to know us, then email us at immigrantadvancement@boston.gov or call us at 617-635-2980 so we can connect more. To close, we'd like to leave you with the Boston Children's Chorus singing, "You've Got a Friend in Me." Enjoy the performance, and the Zoom link will shortly close after that. Thank you, and very good night.